Hey folks, welcome back to the Carl Zahn Show, the post-debate and post-Biden-Stephanopoulos interview version of the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are so inclined. Just doing kind of an abbreviated version of the show this week. It is the holiday weekend, so happy 248th, I think, birthday or something like that to the United States of America. And one could argue that at 248 years old, we might be getting a little bit senile ourselves as a country. Speaking of senile, Joe Biden, that easiest segue in the history of man. Speaking of senile, Joe Biden went on yesterday with George Snuffleupagus, the former Clinton aide slash half reptile, half man, for a so-called interview. It was 22 minutes long on ABC. And this was supposed to be Biden reassuring everybody after the epic fail at the debate, reassuring everybody that he's compos mentis and he's not going anywhere. And I wouldn't call it an interview so much. What he did with Stephanopoulos was more like Stephanopoulos pleading with him to step aside, asking him, have you seen the poll numbers? What happened at the debate? Of course, it's just we've all heard now the myriad excuses that Biden has come up with for the debate. He had a cold. He looked too white because the makeup people, made him look too white, I guess, like a corpse. And my favorite was the jet lag excuse, since he hadn't traveled for 14 days and he had spent 6 days at Camp David prepping. So I guess you'd call it jet lag. I actually looked it up, and it's very unusual disease. It affects only like 0.2% of the population that actually get their jet lag from international travel. I mean, for most of us, it's a day or two after that. You're dealing with the time zones and all that. But there is this very small population that get what they call jet lag, and your jet lag actually doesn't kick in for 2 weeks following your travel. Unusual, but not surprised that Biden is in that small minority of people, because he's in many small minorities of people. He's also in the small minority of people that have been in public life, getting a paycheck from the government for 40 plus years and has not done a single substantial thing in his life. So everybody knows what's going on now with the mainstream media, so-called MSNBC, CNN. Everybody shocked after this debate, shocked that and the claims of a big cover-up. They've been covering up Biden's condition. I don't know if that's true so much, because I think about half the country has known that Joe Biden is losing it, and at an accelerated rate over the last 2 or 3 years through his presidency. So I have to think that if you didn't know that until the debate, you only didn't know it because you didn't want to know it. Joe Scarborough, famously, the man with two foreheads, famously just 3 weeks ago was on the air saying that this is the best Biden that has ever been. He's beyond cogent. And I would say, yeah, he's beyond cogent, but not in the way that Joe Scarborough was thinking. He's like beyond cogent and then went off the cliff on the other side of cogent. But it's just funny to see these people just 3 weeks ago telling the rest of us there's something wrong, all these Biden videos of him stumbling and trailing off and freezing and, muttering, and all these weird personality foibles that he's developing are all part of a cheap fake or deep fake or altered videos. And of course, it's all nonsense, and we knew that. We also knew it by the fact that they wouldn't release the audio of his, deposition there, whatever you want to call it, with Robert Hur. They released a transcript, but not the audio. And of course, we all know why they did not release the audio, because it would probably be breathtakingly frightening. So there's so much going on right now. It's just utterly fascinating. I have to admit, and I do so with some reservation, that I take a certain amount of glee Well, not a certain amount. I take a full adult portion of Glee. I'm just going to be honest. I love it. Watching the Democrats, all these people collectively who shoved Joe Biden down our throat and got him into the election with a dubious win at best, and certainly a very narrow win against Trump in terms of the Electoral College, and even the popular vote. I mean, very, very narrow win. And so during this interview with Stephanopoulos, Biden insists that he's not going anywhere and that he's fine. And Stephanopoulos asked him, would you submit to a cognitive test, a neurological test, and make those results known to the public? And Biden says, oh, I have a cognitive test every day at work. I'm talking to Netanyahu and I'm talking to world leaders. And okay, but that's not really a cognitive test. That's you undoubtedly stumbling through your duties as a president. So, it's, the one thing that all these people forgot when they shoved Biden down our throats is what a enormously stubborn, arrogant man he is. And the one thing they forgot is that when this time came, or if this time came, he is not going to go quietly into the night. He's not. They love the power. They love the life. They love the money. Bill O'Reilly has mentioned, interestingly, and I haven't heard any other news outlet, that the Bidens have taken out $6 million in refinancing or equity loans on a couple of their properties. And you have to ask yourself, number one, is that true? But if so, why? And what is that all about? So it's just fascinating watching this all unfold before our very eyes. And then during the interview with Georgie, Stephanopoulos asked him outright, how will you feel if you stay in the race and refuse to step aside and you lose? And Biden said, as long as I tried my hardest and gave it my all, I'll be okay with that. And if you had a window open in your living room where the TV wasn't on too loud, you could hear like a collective sucking sound across the nation of every Democrat analyst and news person in the country catching their breath, like the quick inhale when Joe Biden says, yeah, I'm okay with losing, because this is what they're all hysterical about, is Trump, 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 and stopping Trump. There was even some actress who just a day or two ago tweeted out or did something on Instagram or one of these things where calling for Trump's assassination, which I would think gets you an immediate visit from the FBI. But there's been a handful of these cases now of fairly notable people just outwardly calling for Trump to be assassinated. Like, take him out, do something about it. So full-blown hysteria is upon us, and it's just kind of lovely to watch. It's like you have stepped in some kind of space-age alien dog poo with your brand new sneakers, and you try rubbing it off in the grass, and then you try rubbing it in the sand, and then you're spraying it with a hose. But every time you lift your foot up and look at your sneaker, the dog poop is still there. That is what's happening here. This is like Barnacle Biden. He has attached himself to the hull of his ship like a disgusting little oxidized barnacle. And Joe Scarborough and Mika and Jake Tapper and Joy Reid and all of them collectively are out there frantically scraping with their putty knife and their wire brush. And no matter what they do, that barnacle will not come free. Well, guess what? That's what you bought. That's what you earned. So they've got Kamala Harris wrapped around their neck like a tangled up anchor while they're trying to tread water and just coming up above the waves every now and then for a big gulp of air. And they've got their diversity equity hire, Kamala Harris, wrapped around their neck. And not surprisingly, she's working on her deployments and flanking maneuvers behind the scenes to wiggle in because, of course, she wants to be president. So these people are all pure evil. They're so awful. They're so transparent. It's just breathtaking. While they've been screaming for the last, several months about Trump and MAGA and the end of democracy and taking democracy while simultaneously dismantling democracy themselves by weaponizing the justice system against Trump, having him removed on ballots, or attempting to have him removed off of ballots, just outwardly subverting democracy themselves at the same time that they try to warn everybody about what will happen under a Trump presidency. It is delicious beyond belief. I keep thinking at some point, like a good meal, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm full. That was delicious. I've had enough. But in this particular case, I am more like the fat guy in Monty Python, where it's one more mint, and eventually, of course, I will just explode. Another couple of interesting things. We're always talking about the woke policies and all of that stuff. I see in California, this is another, as we watch the demise of California, I'm sure everyone is familiar with what they call the Amber Alert, which is an alert that goes out if a minor child has been abducted, gone missing, or anything like that. They do an Amber Alert. Most of us will see that on our phone if it's in your area, and they'll tell you what vehicle to look out for, what the circumstances were. So California has gone a step further now, and they have not just an Amber Alert, but they have an Ebony Alert, which is for African-American children who may have been abducted. And in addition to that, what they're calling a Feather Alert for Indian children that have been abducted. So it's so nice that we have brought our woke policies to the child abduction arena. We want to be sure if there's an Amber Alert that everyone understands what they're looking for exactly. And I'm not sure if there are calibrated degrees of urgency. Amber Alert, let's look, extra hard because that's a white child. Ebony Alert, well, look if you have a chance, but African American. Feather Alert, hey, it's an Indian. Let's check the casinos first. It's so freaking ridiculous that they just can't stop themselves. It's like someone should have a bumper sticker. Just raise your hand when you've had enough of the woke BS. It's just gone unbelievably over the cliff. It's just like this is the Thelma and Louise of woke policies that we're now calibrating Amber Alerts into ethnic divisions. Unbelievable. Another big news in California, State Farm Insurance has just alerted California that they are going up 31% on property insurance, a similar amount on automobile insurance. And if the state government doesn't approve it, State Farm is going to leave California altogether. And one of the things they cite, and is the increase in wildfires, natural disasters, etc., which are causing them to have to pay out more money. But in addition to that, and this is actually legitimate, not that I'm prone to supporting or defending insurance companies, but they've said that it costs them 30% more now. So if you lose a home in a forest fire, it costs them 31% more now to replace that building than it did just 5 years ago because of the inflation and the higher cost of construction materials, contractors, permitting, everything that goes along with that. So they have a case. The interesting thing was they blamed global warming or climate change for the difference in the increase in forest fires, but statistically and factually, most of the forest fires are started by electric lines because of Pacific Gas and Electric that doesn't maintain their power lines, which are archaic and outdated, and they don't maintain them, the undergrowth, the brush, the branches that touch the wire, all of this stuff, because naturally they don't have the money to do it. So they're not maintaining it properly, and then they have these wild forest fires, and then it gets blamed on climate change. Interesting stuff, but does not fare well for Gavin Newsom, who also, like Kamala Harris, is busy with his deployments and flanking maneuvers as he tries to wedge himself in. You'll notice that he flew all the way to the White House last week to support President Biden and show him some support. It's like, the guy is so transparent. It's just unbelievable to me that half the country doesn't see this stuff. And to that point, and I've said this all along on the show, as fun as all this is, and it's interesting to watch, et cetera, the one thing that doesn't change is that regardless of which party wins in November or which way this goes, we have this country with a deep division straight down the middle, increasing emotion, I think, on both sides would be fair to say. And that doesn't get addressed in the election, and it doesn't get addressed in the following election. It just really hasn't been addressed at all. At some point, we have to live together as a country. We have to try to find some way to get on the same page. And I just think as a practical matter, that is just getting less and less likely or even possible. So eventually, somewhere down the road, could be a decade from now, could be 2 decades from now, but somewhere down the road, we have to address the pink elephant in the room, which is how does this country coexist, co-govern with 2 very, very distinct opposing factors living here? You can have raccoons in your basement and you can keep them quiet by throwing an ear of corn down every now and then, or your leftover vegetables, but it doesn't change the fact that you've got raccoons living in the basement. And at some point we have to address that because it's untenable. And that is really going to be interesting to see where that goes. I've been saying for years now on radio before doing this show that we're on the cusp of a national divorce. It's time to split up the furniture, but more importantly, how are we going to manage this? And I have predicted or thought that what will happen most likely is just a general filtering off of people. If you're conservative, you're living in a deep blue state, California, New York, Washington, those areas, you're going to leave there and move to Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, someplace like that that's where the sensibilities and the state government are more in alignment with how you live your life and what your beliefs are. And I think we're seeing that now with lots of people leaving California, moving to the places I just mentioned. And that's kind of a midstream solution, but it's not, it can't be the ultimate solution. We are the United States of America. At some point, I think this comes back to bite us, and I think that's when things get really ugly. I think it'll make this election cycle look like child's play when we really get to a point like an alcoholic waking up in a pile of their own vomit, like when you finally bottom out and realize that you've got to change, you've got to get help. We're not at that point yet. It feels like it, but I don't think we are. But when we get there, that's when the real proof is going to be in the pudding. So fascinating times. I hope everyone's having a great 4th of July weekend. I know I am, but unfortunately it has been all sinful pleasures like barbecue, sugar-rich lemonade, more watermelon than one person should eat in one setting, and of course, basking, marinating in the delightful, slow demise of the Biden crime family. I've said for years, and this goes for both parties, Republicans, Democrats, Washington, the deep state in general. I've said for years I'd rather do business with the mafia because at least they have a code, and that is more evident than ever right now that there is no code. Joe Biden has outlived his usefulness to the party, and more importantly, has become a liability to the party. So I would sleep with one eye open, Joe, if I were you. And we know after your missive last week that Joe Biden said publicly, or it wasn't public, but he leaked out that he wants to change his schedule and he wants to get more rest, and he's not going to be doing anything after 8 o'clock at night. So maybe President of the United States is not the right job for you, my friend. Keep the blue side up, as hard as that might be to do, but let's just keep the wings level and keep the blue side up, and we'll see where this all shakes out. See you next week.